I never thought my marriage would end the way it did, but here we are. I'm 27, my husband Peter is 37. We've been married for 3 years, together for 6. He has an ex-wife, Allison, same age as him. They divorced a year before we met. I knew about her. I knew his family was homophobic and always pushed him to get back together with her, but I thought we were solid. We adopted our son Jack when he was 4. He's 7 now. I love him like my own blood. He is my own blood as far as I'm concerned. The disaster started at Jack's 7th birthday party. We were at Peter's hometown surrounded by his relatives. His mother insisted on hosting. I was reluctant because his family never really accepted me. They made comments about how Peter used to be normal with a wife, but I wanted Jack to have a good time with his cousins. The party was at his parents' house. Everything seemed fine at first. Kids were playing, cake was ready. Then my mother-in-law announced she had a surprise guest, and in walked Allison. She smiled at me like we were old friends. I felt my stomach drop, but I didn't want to ruin Jack's birthday. So I smiled back, kept my mouth shut, and spent the whole time playing with my son. I built Legos, I ran around the yard, I pretended everything was normal. About an hour in, I noticed Peter and Allison were both gone. I asked around, no one knew where they went. I went inside to check. The house is old, creaky. I walked down the hall to Peter's childhood bedroom. The door was cracked. I pushed it open. They were half undressed. His hands were on her waist. Her bra was undone. I stood there for maybe 3 seconds. They didn't see me. I backed out silently, walked back to the party and cut the cake. I don't know how I did it without breaking down. I held Jack on my lap while he opened presents. I laughed at the right moments. When people started leaving, Peter and Allison finally reappeared. Peter pulled me aside. His face was red. Why did you cut the cake without me? That was disrespectful. I looked him straight in the eye. I'm sorry. I just thought you'd be too busy getting into your ex-wife's pants. He went pale. I took Jack, grabbed our bags, and left for the hotel. That night, I put Jack to bed, then sat in the bathroom and cried silently into a towel. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone, I just sat there. The next morning, Peter showed up at the hotel room. He begged. He said it didn't mean anything, that his family put pressure on him, that Allison came onto him. He swore it was a mistake. I told him I needed space. We went home. For the next few days, I barely spoke to him. I focused on Jack. But Peter kept texting me, apologizing, promising to go to therapy to cut off his family. I didn't answer. Then I found out more. Through a cousin who felt sorry for me, I learned that Allison had been texting Peter for months, that his mother had been orchestrating the whole thing, that they'd planned for her to show up at the party, and that Peter had never blocked her. He'd been talking to her behind my back ever since we got married. I confronted him again. He broke down. He admitted they'd had phone sex a few times, that he'd met her for coffee once last year, that he didn't know what he wanted. I told him I wanted a divorce. That was when things got really ugly. His family started calling me names, spreading lies that I had been controlling Peter, that I manipulated him into adopting Jack. Allison started stalking my social media, sending me messages calling me a homewrecker. I'm the homewrecker. She was his wife 10 years ago. I married him legally. I never tried to steal him. I filed for divorce. Peter fought it at first, said he'd changed, that he loved me, but I couldn't get past the image of them in that room and the lies, so many lies. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I got custody of Jack. Peter didn't fight that either. He said he wanted to start over with Allison. I heard through mutual friends that they got back together. His family was thrilled. I was crushed but also relieved. I blocked all of them. I started therapy. I focus on my son. He asks about his dad sometimes, and I tell him the truth in age-appropriate ways. Daddy made some mistakes and we don't live together anymore, but he loves you. I'm not going to poison Jack against his father. But I'm also not going to pretend Peter didn't destroy our marriage. The update that made me post again: about a month ago, I found out that Allison left Peter. Apparently she'd been cheating on him with another man. Peter called me sobbing, saying he made the biggest mistake of his life, that he wanted me back, that he would do anything. I listened and then I hung up. I blocked his number. Some people say I should forgive him for the sake of closure, but I don't owe him closure. I owe myself peace. And right now that peace is raising my son without toxic people around. That was the story of one proposal that ended in disaster. But not all disasters involve weddings. Sometimes they start with a job. I thought my marriage was bad, but some disasters don't even involve a wedding ring. They involve a job, a coworker, and a disability that someone decided didn't count. I'm 34, black, and I live in Texas. I have a condition called chronic pain. If you don't have it, let me explain it like this. Imagine you pulled a muscle in your back and every time you move even a little it hurts. That's my baseline. On a good day, I'm at a 4 out of 10. On a bad day, I'm at a 7 or 8. I own canes. I use them when I need to. I have a handicap placard. I have all the paperwork filed with my job. I'm legally disabled. But I also work 2 jobs because I like staying busy and I like having savings. This story starts at my part-time job. I work as an assistant coordinator. My boss, Amy, is great. My coworker, Casey, is also an assistant coordinator. We were the same position. Casey wanted a promotion to full-time coordinator. I didn't. I already have a full-time job. I told everyone that. Casey knew, but something about having me there bothered her. The trouble started when I had a bad pain day. Sunday, I woke up at a 7. I used my cane. I put my handicap placard in the rearview mirror. I went to work. I did my job. I moved slower than usual. I sat down when I needed to. No one said anything. Casey watched me. I didn't think much of it. A few days later, Amy called me into her office. She looked uncomfortable. She said, "I received a complaint. Someone claims you're falsifying your disability. They say they have proof." I stared at her. Proof? What proof? Amy hesitated. Then she showed me a video on her phone. It was me, outside of work, the Sunday before, actually. I was walking from my car to the grocery store, no cane, no limp. I was having a four-pane day that afternoon, my good day. I was moving normally. The video was taken from across the parking lot. Someone had zoomed in. The timestamp showed it was about 4 hours after my shift ended. "Who took this?" I asked. Amy didn't answer, but I knew it was Casey. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I just said, "That's stalking, that's a violation of my privacy." Amy agreed. She said she'd talk to HR. I asked if I could see the full complaint. She said she'd get a copy. I went back to my desk. Casey wouldn't look at me. She was typing furiously. I sat down and tried to calm down. That night, I decided to document everything. I wrote down dates. I saved my phone logs. I took screenshots of my placard. I emailed my doctor and asked for a letter confirming my condition. I didn't know if I'd need it, but I wanted to be ready. The next day, HR called me in. They showed me the formal complaint. Casey had written that I regularly use a cane at work and park in handicapped spaces, but outside of work you can be seen walking normally without assistance. She attached the video. She said I was defrauding the company and taking advantage of accommodations I don't need. I kept my voice calm. I said chronic pain fluctuates. I use mobility aids on bad days. On good days I don't. That's not fraud. That's how the condition works. Also, she filmed me without my consent. That's illegal in Texas if you have a reasonable expectation of privacy. And parking lots are private property. I could sue. HR went quiet. They said they'd investigate. I went back to work. Casey avoided me for a week. I thought maybe it would blow over. Then I found out Casey had been talking to other coworkers. She told them I was faking. She said I was playing the system. A few people started giving me odd looks. One guy actually asked me, "Are you really disabled or just lazy?" I reported that to Amy. She shut it down fast, but the damage was done. I started feeling unsafe. I changed my route to my car. I checked my mirrors. I started parking in a different lot. I didn't know if Casey was following me again. I called the police non-emergency line and asked for advice. They said they couldn't do anything unless there was a direct threat. They told me to document everything, so I did. I kept a log. I took photos of Casey watching me. I saved emails. I recorded my conversations with HR. A month later, HR called me again. They had concluded the investigation. They said Casey's actions were unprofessional and invasive but not a violation of company policy because she recorded me in a public place. They said they would give her a verbal warning. I asked if they would require her to delete the video. They said no. I felt like I'd been slapped. I said, "So she can keep a video of me, she can share it, and you're okay with that?" HR said they'd encourage her to delete it. They couldn't force her. That was when I decided to take it further. I hired a lawyer. He sent a cease and desist letter to Casey personally. He also sent one to the company threatening a lawsuit for hostile work environment. The company panicked. They offered to transfer me to another location. I said no. They offered to promote Casey to a different department. I said no. I wanted her to face consequences. Then the update happened. A few weeks ago, Casey was fired. Apparently, she'd been doing other things, taking videos of other coworkers, snooping through files. She'd even recorded a manager having a private conversation. The company found out during the investigation. They let her go immediately. When I heard, I didn't celebrate. I felt relief, but also anger because it took her doing it to someone else for them to take action. The aftermath, I'm still at the job. Amy is still my boss. Everyone treats me normal now, but I still get nervous when I park. I still check my surroundings. Coworker stalking is real, and disability discrimination is real. I have a lawyer on retainer. I have a paper trail. I don't think it's over. But for now, I'm okay. That was the story of how a proposal gone wrong turned into a workplace war with a video camera. But this compilation isn't finished. There's another disaster I need to tell you about. This one involves cupcakes, an ex-coworker, and a very public humiliation. So the disability stalking thing was finally over, but I learned something from that whole mess. People will go to incredible lengths to tear you down if they feel threatened. And sometimes the pettiest revenge comes in the sweetest form. I'm 22, female, and I work at a mid-sized office. 2 years ago, I met Josh. He was 24, worked in a different department. We hit it off immediately as friends. That was it. From day one, everyone at work could see he had a crush on me. I was still getting over a breakup and the death of my grandmother who raised me. I wasn't ready for a relationship. I also just didn't see him that way. To me, he was like an older brother. I thought he understood. I rejected his advances repeatedly. Outside of work, he'd ask me out. I'd say no. This went on for 6 months. I'm a people pleaser. I hate conflict. I finally caved. I reluctantly agreed to one date. Just one, I made that clear. We went out, it was fine, nothing special. I thought that was the end of it. But after that one date, Josh decided we were an official, exclusive couple. He didn't ask me, he didn't confirm. He just started telling everyone at work that I was his girlfriend. I was shocked. Our coworkers were shocked. Everyone knew I wasn't interested. Worse, everyone knew I had my eye on someone else in a different department. That's a whole separate story, but it matters because Josh knew about it. I confronted him after work. I asked him why he told everyone we were together when he never even asked my feelings. He shrugged. I just assumed since we went out once that you were interested. I lost it. I told him we were not together, and even if I was interested, I wouldn't be anymore because he completely disrespected me. He started crying, begging me to give him a chance. Then he dropped the bomb, "If you don't, I'll unalive myself and it'll be your fault." I froze. I'm a pushover. I hate confrontation. I told him I wouldn't report him, but I needed space. He agreed. For a few weeks, he left me alone. I thought it was over. Then the text started late at night. "I miss you. Why won't you give me a chance? You're being cruel." I didn't reply. He escalated to calling me at work. I blocked his number. He made a new one. I blocked that too. He started showing up at my desk, bringing me coffee, leaving notes on my car. I told my manager. She said she'd talk to him. Nothing changed. Then the threats started. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did." I was scared. I started checking my surroundings. I changed my lunch break. I stayed close to coworkers. Then one day I was in the break room and I saw Josh with a girl from another department. They were laughing close. I felt relieved maybe he'd moved on. But the next day that girl came up to me. She said, "Josh told me you're crazy. He said you're obsessed with him and you stalk him." I couldn't believe it. He was spinning the story. I told her the truth. She looked unconvinced. I went to HR. I showed them the texts, the call logs, the notes, the threats. They said they'd investigate. 2 weeks later, they told me they couldn't substantiate anything because most of the evidence was outside of work. They gave Josh a verbal warning. I felt helpless. Months went by. He kept his distance at work, but he'd still send random emails. I ignored them. Then about a year later, I got a promotion. I moved up. Josh was still in his same position. He didn't take it well. He started making passive-aggressive comments in meetings. I ignored him. Then a few weeks ago, Josh got fired. I don't know all the details. Something about him harassing another female coworker. Someone finally had enough evidence. He was escorted out. The whole office was buzzing. The day after he was fired, I had a thought. It was petty, it was childish, but it felt right. I baked cupcakes, chocolate with vanilla frosting. I brought them to work. I put them in the break room with a note. "Happy Tuesday." I didn't say why. I didn't mention Josh, but everyone knew. People came up to me laughing. "You're evil," one guy said, grinning. I just shrugged. "It's just cupcakes." My boss called me into her office. She looked at me, trying to hide a smile. "Did you bring cupcakes today?" "Yes." "Because Josh was fired yesterday?" "No, because it's Tuesday." She shook her head. "Okay. But if anyone complains, you didn't do it on purpose." No one complained. Everyone ate the cupcakes. It was the most satisfying thing I've ever done. I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed either. He spent 2 years making my life miserable. I spent one batch of cupcakes celebrating his exit. Sometimes the pettiest revenge is the sweetest, but not all revenge is sweet. Sometimes the betrayal cuts so deep that no amount of cupcakes can fix it. I remember sitting in my car after that birthday party, staring at the steering wheel, wondering how my life had turned into a soap opera. My name is not important, but I'm 27, male, and I've been married to Peter for 3 years. We'd been together for 6 years total. He's 37, I know age gap, it never bothered me. He was kind, stable, and he loved our son Jack. Jack is 7, adopted after we got married. I love that kid like he's my own blood. Peter is bisexual. I never had a problem with that. I never had a problem with his ex-wife Allison either. They divorced a year before we met. It was amicable, or so I thought. The problem was Peter's family. They're homophobic. His mom, my mother-in-law, always told him he should get back together with Allison. She never accepted our marriage. I tried to be the bigger person. I went to family dinners. I smiled at their passive-aggressive comments. I told myself it was for Jack. 2 weeks ago, it was Jack's birthday. We drove to Peter's hometown to celebrate with his family. We rented a hotel room nearby. I was determined to make it a good day. Jack was so excited. He wanted to play with his cousins, eat cake, open presents. I wanted that for him. We arrived at his parents' house. It was a big backyard party, balloons, a bounce house, the works. I was helping set up when my mother-in-law came up to me with this fake smile. "I hope you don't mind, I invited a few extra people." I should have known, but I just said, "That's fine." The party started, kids running around, adults chatting. I stayed close to Jack, playing tag, helping him with the piñata. I didn't notice at first when Peter disappeared. I was too focused on making sure Jack had fun. Then it was time to cut the cake. I looked around, no Peter, no Allison. I asked his sister. She shrugged. "They went inside a while ago." I walked into the house. It was quiet. I called his name, no answer. I checked the living room, the kitchen, then I went upstairs. I heard a noise from Peter's old bedroom. The door was cracked. I pushed it open. I saw them, Peter and Allison, half undressed, his hands on her waist, hers on his belt. They froze when they saw me. I froze too. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there for what felt like a minute. Then I turned around and walked back to the party. I couldn't ruin Jack's birthday. That's all I could think. My son deserves one happy day, so I went back outside, smiled, and cut the cake without Peter. People noticed he was missing. I said he was on a call. We sang happy birthday. Jack opened his presents. He was so happy. I held it together. Then I saw Peter and Allison come out from the back door looking disheveled. Peter walked straight to me. His face was red. "Why did you cut the cake without me? That was disrespectful." I stared at him. I didn't raise my voice. I said, I'm sorry, I just thought you'd be too busy getting into your ex-wife's pants. He went pale, he opened his mouth, nothing came out. I grabbed Jack's hand and said, we're leaving. I told Jack we had to go back to the hotel because he needed to rest. He was confused, but he let me take him. I buckled him into the car seat. I drove to the hotel. I didn't cry until I put him to bed. That night, Peter called me. I ignored it. He texted, it's not what you think. I'm sorry. Please talk to me. I didn't reply. The next morning, he showed up at the hotel room. I let him in because Jack was awake and I didn't want a scene. He begged. He cried. He said Allison came onto him, that he was weak, that it meant nothing. I told him to leave. He said, I love you. I love our family. Don't throw this away. I said, you threw it away when you took your clothes off in front of your ex-wife at our son's birthday party. He left. I drove home with Jack. I told him Daddy had to stay behind for work. I didn't know what to tell him. I still don't. A week went by. I stayed with my sister. Peter called constantly. His family started calling too. His mom left a voicemail. You're overreacting. It was a mistake. He loves you. Don't break up your family over one little slip. I deleted it. Then I found out Allison was pregnant. Peter told me over the phone. She's pregnant. I don't know if it's mine, but it could be. I felt like the ground opened up. He said, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll cut her off. I'll move. Just please don't leave me. I told him I needed time, but in my heart I already knew I couldn't trust him again, not after that, not after his family, not after everything. Yesterday I filed for divorce. I'm keeping Jack. He's my son. Peter can fight me in court, but I have evidence. I have the texts. I have the photos from that night. I have witnesses who saw them go inside together. I'm not letting him take Jack. Peter called me last night sobbing. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll never see her again. I said, it's too late. You made your choice when you chose her over our family on Jack's birthday. He said, you'll never find someone who loves you like I do. I hung up. Now I'm sitting in my apartment watching Jack play with his new toys. He doesn't know what's happening. He just knows Daddy isn't here. I don't know how to explain it when he's older. But I know I can't stay with a man who would do that, not just the cheating. The disrespect, the lying, the family that always put him against me. I thought I was overreacting at first. Maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe I could forgive him, but I can't. Every time I look at him, I see that bedroom. I see them. I see the cake I cut alone. I'm moving forward. It's hard. Some days I feel like I'm drowning. Other days I feel relief. But I know I made the right choice. My son deserves a happy home. And I deserve a partner who won't cheat on me at his own child's birthday party. That's where I am now. Divorce papers filed. Lawyer ready. Heartbroken but healing. I don't know what happens next, but I'm not going back. I thought the worst betrayal I'd ever face was from someone I loved. But the next betrayal came from someone I barely knew, and it taught me that pain doesn't always come from the people you trust. Sometimes it comes from people who want what you have even if you don't want it yourself. My name doesn't matter. I'm in my late 20s and I live with chronic pain, not the kind you recover from after a few days. The kind that's always there, like a low hum in the background. I explain it like this. Imagine stepping on a Lego or hitting your funny bone. That sharp, awful spike of pain is an 8 out of 10. Most people live their daily lives at a 2 or 3. I live at a 6 every single day. Some days I'm higher. Rare, blessed days I drop to a 4 or even lower. Those days feel like a miracle. I've learned to function anyway. I work 2 jobs because staying busy helps with my anxiety. My main job is full-time. My second job is part-time as an assistant coordinator for a small office. I love that job. The work is easy, the team is great, and my boss Amy is genuinely kind. The only downside is Casey. Casey is the other assistant coordinator, same position as me. But Casey wants a promotion badly, a full-time position that would take her off the part-time roster. I never wanted that promotion. I already have a full-time job. I only do this role to pad my savings and because I genuinely enjoy the work. Casey knows that, everyone knows that, but she still saw me as a threat, maybe because I got along better with Amy, maybe because I never had to ask for time off for doctor's appointments. I had paperwork filed for accommodations. I had a handicap placard on my license plate, the kind you hang from the rearview mirror. I own canes, but I only used them on days when my pain was at a 7 or higher. On good days I walked without them, that was normal. One Sunday my pain spiked. I was at a solid 7. I grabbed my cane from the passenger seat and used it to get out of the car at the grocery store. I walked slowly through the parking lot, leaning on the cane, focused on not wincing. I got my groceries, checked out, and walked back to my car. As I loaded the bags into my trunk, I noticed a blue sedan parked a few spaces away. The driver's window was cracked. I saw a phone pointed in my direction. I froze for a second. Then I recognized the car. It was Casey's. I didn't say anything in that moment. I got in my car and drove home, but my heart was pounding. Why was she filming me? I thought maybe I was paranoid. Maybe she was just on her phone. But the next day at work, Amy pulled me into her office. She looked uncomfortable. I need to talk to you about something, she said. Casey came to me yesterday. She said she has video footage of you walking without your cane outside of work. She claims you're faking your disability. I felt the blood drain from my face. She filmed me without my consent, Amy nodded. She showed me the video. You were walking normally, carrying groceries, no cane. She says that proves you don't need accommodations. I sat there, stunned. I only use my cane on bad days. That day was a low-pain day. I was at a 4. I don't need the cane every day. That's the whole point of chronic pain. It fluctuates. Amy sighed. I know, I believe you. But Casey filed a formal complaint with HR. They have to investigate. I left her office shaking. I ran into Casey in the break room. She was making coffee, a smirk on her face. I said, you followed me. You filmed me outside the grocery store, she shrugged. I was just getting the truth. If you're not really disabled, you shouldn't get special treatment. I don't get special treatment, I said. I have accommodations because I'm legally disabled. That's not special treatment, that's equal access. She rolled her eyes. Whatever, we'll see what HR says. The investigation took 2 weeks. During that time, Casey escalated. She started parking near my car at work, sometimes taking photos of my license plate. She texted me once, saw you walking fast today, guess the pain isn't so bad. I reported her to Amy. Amy talked to her. It didn't stop. Then I found notes on my windshield. Prove you're disabled. Show me a doctor's note. I took them to HR. They said they'd handle it, but Casey was still there, still staring at me in the hallways, still whispering to other coworkers. I went to the police. I live in Texas. I'm black. The officer listened to me, then said, this is a workplace issue. She hasn't threatened you. She hasn't touched you. There's no crime here. I said, she's stalking me. She filmed me without permission. That's illegal in some states. He shrugged. Not illegal here. Talk to your HR. I felt hopeless. Every day I walked into that office, I knew Casey was watching. I started using my cane even on good days just to avoid giving her ammunition, but I couldn't hide my pain forever. One morning I had a flare-up. I was at an 8. I could barely stand. I used my cane to walk to my desk. Casey saw me and laughed. Oh, look, the faker is acting again. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I was in too much pain. Afternoon, Amy called me into her office again. She had a smile on her face for the first time in weeks. HR finished the investigation, she said. Casey's behavior is considered harassment and a violation of workplace policy. They're terminating her employment effective immediately. I almost cried. Really? Really? She's being escorted out today? I walked back to my desk. Casey was packing her things. She glared at me as she passed. This isn't over, she muttered. But it was. She left. The office felt lighter. People came up to me apologizing. I told them it wasn't their fault, but inside I was exhausted. I had to prove my own pain to a stranger, a coworker, and a police department that didn't care. I had to endure weeks of being watched, filmed, and mocked. All because Casey wanted a promotion I never asked for. I still work there. Amy has been supportive. I've started seeing a therapist for the anxiety this caused. I don't use my cane more than I need to. I won't let Casey take that from me. But I learned something. The world doesn't believe pain unless you can show it. And sometimes, even then, they don't care. I'm moving forward. I have good days and bad days. But I'm not letting anyone film me without my permission again. And if I ever see Casey's blue sedan in a parking lot, I'm calling the police, whether they believe me or not. I thought that was the end of workplace drama. But the next story proves that some people never learn. And sometimes karma needs a little help, like a dozen cupcakes. My name doesn't matter. I'm 22 and I work in an office. 2 years ago, I met Josh. He was 24, worked in a different department at first. We hit it off immediately. As friends, that's how it started. I was still getting over a breakup and the loss of my paternal grandmother who raised me. I wasn't ready for a relationship. I told Josh that many times. He kept pushing anyway. From the beginning, everyone at work noticed he was interested in me. I saw it too, but I kept things friendly. I rejected his advances repeatedly for about 6 months. I thought he understood. He seemed like a good guy, like an older brother. I didn't see him romantically at all, but he didn't give up. Finally, I caved. I agreed to one date, just one. I figured I'd give it a chance. Maybe my feelings would grow. They didn't. I knew after that night that nothing was there. I told him kindly that I appreciated the date, but I wasn't interested in taking it further. He nodded, said he understood, but he didn't. The next day at work, I heard whispers. People were looking at me differently. A coworker pulled me aside and said, "Congrats on you and Josh. He told everyone you're official now." I froze. What? We're not together. We went on one date, that's it. She looked confused. Well, he's telling everyone you're his girlfriend. I was mortified. I went straight to Josh after work. Why did you tell everyone we're a couple? I never agreed to that. He shrugged. I just assumed. Since we went out, I thought you were into me. I lost it. I told him we were not together, and even if I was interested, which I was not, I wouldn't be after he disrespected me like that. He started crying, begging, saying he'd unalive himself and it would be my fault. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I'm a pushover, a people pleaser. I hate conflict. So I told him I was sorry, that I didn't mean to hurt him. I tried to smooth things over. That was a mistake. It gave him hope. After that, he wouldn't leave me alone. He started transferring into my department. He found excuses to be near me. He sent me texts constantly. I blocked him. He created new numbers. I reported it to my boss, but it was his word against mine. Then he started spreading rumors about me, that I led him on, that I used him. People started taking sides. One day I got a message from an unknown number. It said, "You'll regret this. I know things about you." I recognized the phrasing. It was Josh. I still didn't report it to HR. I should have. I was scared of making things worse. I just wanted it to end. It didn't end. It escalated. He started showing up at places I went after work. He knew my schedule. I felt like I was being watched. I talked to my boss again. She said she'd handle it, but nothing changed. Then a miracle, Josh was fired. I don't know all the details, something about falsifying time sheets, but he was gone. The office breathed a collective sigh of relief. People came up to me saying how sorry they were for not believing me earlier. I didn't care about that. I was just glad he was gone. The next day I decided to celebrate. I brought a dozen cupcakes to work. They were left over from a party, but really I wanted to mark the occasion. I put them in the break room with a note, "New beginnings, help yourself." People loved them. It was a good day, but then I got a text from an unknown number. It was him again. "You think this is funny, bringing cupcakes because I got fired? You're a heartless bitch, I hope you rot." I blocked that number too. Then another message came from a different number. "Everyone at work saw your post. You're celebrating my pain. Wait until HR hears about this." I started panicking. Was I an asshole for bringing cupcakes? Was that too petty? I thought I was just moving on, but maybe I was rubbing it in. I talked to my coworker Sarah. She said, "You're not the asshole, he stalked you. He threatened suicide, he spread lies, you're allowed to be glad he's gone." But I wasn't sure. I never got in trouble with HR, nothing happened. But I learned something important. When you finally stand up for yourself, people might call you petty, but you're not, you're surviving. And sometimes a cupcake is just a cupcake. I still work there. Josh hasn't contacted me since that last string of texts. I changed my number, I'm more careful now, but I don't regret bringing those cupcakes. They were a symbol of a weight lifted, and I needed that. So no, I'm not the asshole, but I spent too long worrying about what he thought. I'm done with that. I never thought I'd be the guy whose husband cheated on him with his ex-wife. But here we are. My name isn't important. I'm 27, my husband Peter is 37. We've been married 3 years, together for 6. We have a son Jack who's 7. We adopted him after we got married. I love him like he's my own blood because he is. But our family picture got shattered 2 weeks ago. Peter is bisexual. I've always known that. I never had a problem with it. I also never had a problem with his ex-wife Allison. She's 37, same age as him. They divorced a year before we met. I thought it was a clean break, but Peter's family never let it go. They're homophobic. His mother always says, "You should get back with Allison, this phase will pass." I've heard it at every holiday dinner. I gritted my teeth and stayed quiet because I loved Peter and I thought he was on my side. Jack's birthday was 2 weeks ago. We went to Peter's hometown to celebrate with his family. I didn't want to go. I knew his mother would pull something, but Peter insisted. It's for Jack, he loves his cousins. So I agreed. Mistake number 1, the party was at his parents' house. Everything was fine for the first hour. Jack was opening presents, playing with his cousins. I was helping set up the cake. Then I noticed Allison walk in through the back door. My mother-in-law had invited her. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to ruin Jack's birthday. I just stayed close to him, kept playing, kept smiling. An hour later, it was time to cut the cake. I looked around for Peter. He wasn't there. Neither was Allison. I asked his sister, "Where's Peter?" She shrugged. "I think he went upstairs to get something." I felt a knot in my stomach. I told Jack to wait with his grandma and I went inside. The house is old. I knew Peter's childhood bedroom was on the second floor. I walked up the stairs quietly. The door was slightly open. I pushed it. They were taking each other's clothes off. Her bra was already on the floor. His belt was undone. I stood there for what felt like a minute but was probably 3 seconds. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just turned around and walked back downstairs. I went back to the party. Jack was waiting for me. "Daddy, can I cut the cake now?" I smiled. "Yes, baby, let's do it." I cut the cake. I handed out slices. I played more games with him. I didn't tell anyone. I refused to make my son's birthday about my pain. An hour later, people started leaving. That's when Peter and Allison came back downstairs. They looked normal, like nothing happened. Peter came up to me angry. "Why did you cut the cake without me? That was disrespectful." I stared at him. I didn't yell. I just said, "I'm sorry. I thought you'd be too busy getting into your ex-wife's pants." He went pale. He didn't say anything. I grabbed Jack, told him we were going back to the hotel. Jack didn't understand. He cried a little. I told him we'd have a special breakfast tomorrow. He settled down. At the hotel, I put Jack to bed. Then I sat in the bathroom and let myself cry. I cried for an hour. Then I called my best friend. She said, "You need to leave him." I said, "I know," but I didn't know how. The next morning, Peter showed up at the hotel. He knocked on the door. I opened it. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Please let me explain. It was a mistake. She kissed me first. I was drunk." He wasn't drunk. I had seen him drinking soda all night. I said, "You were not drunk. I saw you. You were taking off each other's clothes." He started crying. "I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. I love you. Please don't leave me." I said, "I need time." We went back home. I slept in the guest room. I couldn't look at him. Jack kept asking why Daddy was sleeping in the other room. I said, "Daddy has a cold." I lied to my son. That made me hate Peter even more. A week passed. I was still numb. Then I got a text from an unknown number. It was Allison. "I'm sorry for what happened, but Peter and I have history. He still loves me. You should let him go." I didn't respond. I blocked her, but that text stayed in my head. I started looking through Peter's phone when he was in the shower. I found messages between them going back months. He had been texting her ever since we got married. "I miss you. I think about you. I'm sorry I married him." I felt like my entire marriage was a lie. I confronted him that night. I showed him the messages. He didn't deny it. It was just talk. Nothing physical happened until the party, I swear. I said, "Get out." He left. He's staying at his brother S now. I have Jack, I have the house, I have a lawyer, but the worst part isn't the cheating, it's what I found out later. I told my lawyer everything. She asked about Allison's background. I didn't know much, so I did some digging. I found out that Peter and Allison met when she was 23 and he was 33. She was his student in a college class. They started dating immediately. She got pregnant quickly. They got married. She was young. He was older. It felt off. Then I found out more. After their divorce, Peter started dating me. I was 2-1. He was 3-0. Same pattern, younger partner. Quick commitment. I thought it was love. Now I think it was control. And the worst, Allison and Peter had a daughter together after they divorced. Wait, no, that's not right. I'm getting confused. Let me focus. I found out that Allison and Peter's relationship started when she was very young, like borderline grooming, and during our marriage he was texting her. She knew about me. She didn't care. She wanted him back. I also learned that Jack's adoption might be contested, not by me. By his biological family. It's a mess. I don't know what I'm going to do. I love Jack. I can't lose him, but I'm scared Peter will try to take him away. I'm not forgiving Peter. Not now, maybe not ever. I'm still in the house. Peter wants to come back. He says he'll go to therapy. He says he'll cut off Allison. I don't believe him. My family says I should divorce him. His family says I'm overreacting. It was one kiss. Boys will be boys. I hate that phrase. I'm waiting. I'm saving evidence. I'm talking to my lawyer. If you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, don't ignore the red flags. Don't let your mother-in-law invite your husband's ex to your son's birthday. Don't believe the apologies. I thought I had a happy marriage. Now I know I was just a placeholder. I'll update when there's news. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I thought I was done. I thought the worst was behind me when I told Peter to get out, but then the updates came and they kept getting worse. A few days after I kicked him out, I got a call from a woman I didn't recognize. She said her name was Sarah and she was a mutual friend of Peter and Allison from years ago. She said, I saw your post. I need to tell you something. She told me that Peter and Allison had been sleeping together on and off for the entire time we were together, not just at the birthday party, for 6 years. She said Allison would brag about it to her friends, call it maintenance sex. She said Peter would text Allison after our dates, after our wedding night, after we adopted Jack. I threw up when I heard that. I confronted Peter again. I drove to his brother's house. I banged on the door. He came out looking scared. I said, did you sleep with Allison the night we got married? He didn't answer. He just looked at the ground. I screamed. I don't scream, but I screamed that day. He said it only happened a few times. I was confused. I said, you were confused for 6 years. He didn't have an answer. I went home and started packing his things. I found a box in the back of his closet. Inside were letters from Allison written to him at his old address. Love letters. I miss you. I can't wait to have you back. Your wife doesn't know you like I do. Dated 2 years into our marriage. I took everything to my lawyer. She said, this is good. This helps. But it gets darker. The lawyer asked about Allison's past. I told her what I knew. She did a background check. Turns out Peter and Allison's relationship started when she was 19 and he was 2. He was her TA. She was a freshman. They hid it until she turned 21. Then he married her. My lawyer said, that's a power imbalance. That's grooming. I felt sick because I was 21 when I met Peter. He was 3, same age gap, same pattern. I started therapy. My therapist told me something that broke me. She said, predators find people who are vulnerable. You had just lost your grandmother. You were grieving. He saw that. I didn't want to believe it, but it fit. Then the real bomb dropped. My lawyer called me last week. She said, you need to sit down. I sat. She said, Allison is pregnant. I said, so? She said, she claims the baby is Peter's. I felt the world tilt. How they've been having sex, she said, apparently. She says it happened multiple times over the past year. She says Peter knows. I called Peter. He didn't answer. I texted him, is the baby yours? He didn't respond for hours. Then he sent one word, yes. I lost it. I started throwing things. I broke a vase. I scared Jack. He started crying. I had to call my sister to come get him because I couldn't stop shaking. That was 3 days ago. I'm filing for divorce. I'm fighting for full custody of Jack. I'm also filing a restraining order against Allison for harassment. She's been texting me nonstop. He's coming back to me. You were just a placeholder. I'm having his baby. My lawyer says I have a strong case, but I'm terrified. Because if Jack's adoption gets contested in any way, I could lose him. And he's the only good thing in my life right now. Peter's family is on his side. His mother called me yesterday. She said, you should have known he would go back to her. She's the mother of his real children. You're just a phase. I hung up. I'm writing this from my living room. Jack is asleep upstairs. I have a glass of wine. I'm not okay. But I will be. I'm not forgiving Peter. Not ever. And if you're reading this and you're with someone who's still friends with their ex, still texting them, still spending time alone with them, run, don't walk, run. I wish I had run. Not all betrayals happen at home. Sometimes they happen at work. And sometimes the person who smiles at you every morning is the one who's trying to destroy you. I have chronic pain. I'm 34 now. It started when I was 28 after a car accident. My back never healed right. Some days I can walk fine. Other days I need a cane. Rare days I need a wheelchair. It's invisible most of the time, which is both a blessing and a curse. I work as an assistant coordinator at a company that expanded last year. I was transferred to a new location closer to my home. I love it there. My boss, Amy, is genuinely a good person. My coworker, Casey, seemed fine at first. We got along okay, but I noticed things. Casey wanted the promotion to full-time coordinator. I didn't. I already have a full-time job. This one is part-time. I work it to pad my savings and because I like staying busy. Casey didn't believe me. She thought I was lying, that I was planning to take the promotion she wanted. I have all the proper disability paperwork on file. I have a handicap placard for my car. I use it on bad days. The thing about chronic pain is you can have a good day one day and a terrible day the next. That's just how it works. Last month, I had a bad day. A really bad day. I was at a 7 or 8 on my pain scale. I used my cane. I parked in the handicap spot. I limped into work. Casey saw me. She didn't say anything. The next day I felt better, not great, but a solid 5. I didn't use my cane. I walked normally. I parked in a regular spot because I didn't need the close spot. That's when things got weird. Amy called me into her office. She looked uncomfortable. "I need to show you something," she said. She turned her laptop toward me. It was a video of me in my driveway in my own home, getting out of my car without my cane, walking normally to my front door. I said, "Who took this?" Amy said, "Casey. She submitted it to HR. She's claiming you're faking your disability." I felt my blood go cold. "She was at my house. She followed me home." Amy nodded. "HR has the full video. She filmed you for the past 2 weeks, every time you left your house." I started shaking. "She stalked me," Amy said. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know until this morning." I went to HR. They showed me a folder full of videos. Casey had been parked outside my house on multiple days. She filmed me grocery shopping. She filmed me at the park with my sister's kids. She filmed me walking my dog. She intentionally only captured the times when I wasn't using my cane. HR asked me to prove my disability. I showed them my medical records. I showed them my handicap placard. I showed them my doctor's note. They said, "We need to investigate." I felt violated. I felt angry. I went to the police. I filed a report for stalking. The officer looked at me and said, "This is a workplace issue, not a police issue." I said, "She filmed me at my home without my consent for 2 weeks." He shrugged. "File a civil suit." I felt powerless. The next week, Casey started spreading rumors at work. "She's faking it. I have proof. She walked just fine without her cane." People started looking at me differently. Some believed her, some didn't, but the damage was done. Amy stood by me. She said, "I believe you, and what Casey did is illegal in most states." She went to HR again. She demanded the videos be removed. She demanded Casey be disciplined. HR said they were reviewing the situation. Then things escalated. Last Friday, I was coming home from work. I noticed a car parked down the street. Same car I'd seen in the videos, Casey's car. I drove past. I saw her sitting in the driver's seat, her phone aimed at my house. I called the police. They came. They asked her why she was there. She said she was just passing through. They told her to leave. They didn't arrest her. I felt sick. Then the update came. I was at the grocery store 2 days later. My pain was bad. I was using my cane. I saw Casey. She was with another coworker. She saw me and laughed. Look, she remembered her prop today. I didn't respond. I kept walking, but I was done being a victim. I went to a lawyer. I hired one. I filed a lawsuit for invasion of privacy and stalking. I filed a complaint with the EEOC for disability discrimination. I sent everything to my company's corporate office. Yesterday, I got a call from a corporate HR director. She said, "We have reviewed the evidence. Casey is being terminated effective immediately. We are also implementing mandatory training on disability awareness and workplace harassment." I felt relief, but also exhaustion. Casey tried to contact me after she was fired. She texted me from a blocked number. "You ruined my life. I hope you rot." I blocked her, but the damage is still there. I still feel paranoid. I still check my rearview mirror. I still look over my shoulder. I have chronic pain. I have a disability. I am not faking it. And no amount of video evidence can make me feel ashamed for having bad days. I hope Casey learns from this, but I doubt she will. And for anyone out there who thinks invisible disabilities aren't real, think again. You never know what someone is going through. A cane isn't a prop. A handicap placard isn't a privilege. It's a necessity. I'm done explaining myself. I sat in my car for a long time after that call with corporate HR. I felt like I'd won a battle, but not the war. Casey was gone, but the whispers at work, they didn't stop overnight. Some people still looked at me sideways. Some still asked, "So are you really disabled or just having a bad day?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them to live one day in my body, but I didn't. I just kept showing up. I kept using my cane when I needed it. I kept parking in the handicap spot. I stopped explaining myself. That's when I remembered what my grandma used to say: "You can't pour from an empty cup." And I realized I'd been pouring for everyone else my whole life. At work, at home, in my friendships, I was the people pleaser, the pushover, the one who said yes when I wanted to say no. And it had cost me not just my energy, but my dignity in some cases. That's why when I read about this girl, 22, just starting out in the workforce, I felt a knot in my stomach. Because I recognized her, I'd been her, and her story, it made me want to warn every young woman out there. She met Josh at work 2 years ago, different departments at first. They hit it off as friends. He wanted more, she didn't. She was still grieving her grandmother, just got out of a breakup. She told him no, multiple times. For 6 months, he wouldn't stop. She finally caved. One date, just one. He told everyone they were a couple. She confronted him. He cried, threatened to unalive himself if she didn't give him a chance. Classic manipulation. She stayed. She felt trapped. Then the coworker, the one she actually liked, entered the picture. Nothing happened, but Josh flipped. He started spreading rumors. He accused her of cheating on him. He got the entire friend group against her. HR didn't help. She was too scared to report the suicide threats. She had no proof. Then he got fired for something unrelated. The same day he walked out, she baked cupcakes, chocolate with raspberry filling, her grandma's recipe. She brought them to work the next morning. She passed them around. People smiled. She felt free for the first time in months, but someone complained, said she was gloating, said it was hostile. She got called into HR. They asked if she was celebrating his termination. She said no, she just liked baking. They dropped it. But she still wonders, was she the asshole for bringing cupcakes? I read her story and thought, no, you were reclaiming your space. You were taking back the joy he tried to steal. That's not being an asshole, that's being a survivor. I left a comment. I said, you did nothing wrong, he threatened suicide, he spread lies, you baked cupcakes, that's not even close to the same level. She replied, thank you, I needed to hear that. And I felt like we were all connected somehow, all of us who have been gaslit, stalked, manipulated, or disrespected. All of us who had to fight just to keep our dignity. We might not know each other's names, but we know each other's pain. I'm still healing, I still flinch when I see a car that looks like Casey's. I still have chronic pain days where I can't get out of bed. But I'm no longer silent, I file police reports, I hire lawyers, I speak up at work. And if you're reading this, whether you're the one with the chronic pain, the one with the ex who won't stop, or the one who baked cupcakes after a nightmare ended, I see you. Don't let them break you. You're stronger than you know.